podcasting from my closet in northern Japan. This is Reimagining Hustle, a podcast for entrepreneurial parents creating a life where business and parenthood live peacefully in the same space. I'm your host, Roxanne Merkett, a mom of two, microbusiness coach, and serial entrepreneur on a journey to prove that it is possible to do what you love without sacrificing all your precious time. Let's do this. Welcome back to Reimagining Hustle. I am thrilled to chat with my guest today. I can't wait for us all to meet you. Gillian Astarita, welcome so much to the podcast.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, Gillian, this is going to be so fun. I told you before we started recording, but I definitely have been like reading through your website, looking through all your stuff, and I can't wait to dive in and just like learn what is inside your brain. I just can't wait. So will you tell us about you and the work that you do, and also a little bit of your journey to get there?
Sure. So I'm a life coach for moms, and what my main focus is on is helping moms to overcome mom guilt, all of like that horrible mom guilt that holds moms back from doing anything for themselves. I believe so strongly that moms were these amazing people before they became moms. So you're an incredible mom, sure, but there's still that person in there that deserves your time and attention. And so that's the crux of my work. And how I got into this. So I became a stay-at-home mom by choice when my first daughter was 4 months old. And, I went through that typical stage of, this is great, I'm home with my kid. And then the next stage of, this is so lonely. The next stage of like, okay, what do I do now? I got to find something. And so I went back into my roots. I was an entrepreneur before I had her. And yeah, it just kind of came naturally after that, where I started a blog, started connecting with other moms, hearing some of the issues that we were all experiencing together. And, I kind of broke through mom guilt after a couple of years of being home. And once I was hearing this phrase being thrown around so much, I had never used the phrase itself before.
Ah.
But once I heard how it was described, I said, I know that. And so here I am.
Wow. So if you've listened to the podcast before, you know that this is one of the questions that I ask every single guest that I have on the show. Do you experience guilt around entrepreneurship and motherhood? So you were an entrepreneur before.
Yes.
What did you do before?
I was an event planner.
Oh, very cool. Okay. So you've got all
Yeah.
sorts of, that adds a whole fun new layer to it.
Yeah.
So you hadn't used this phrase mom guilt before.
Right.
What did you call it instead? What was it in your mind?
It was like this feeling of expectation,
Mm,
what I should be doing, what this should look like, what I should feel, like I should
yeah.
have felt this overwhelming joy, and I should have been so happy because I was so fortunate to be home with my kid. Like that was a choice I could make. But there was this kind of like gaping hole, and I couldn't put like a real feeling to it. I couldn't put words to it. But it just was this overwhelming feeling, and that's what made me start blogging, because I always found journaling to really like expose some of these things like I couldn't put words to in the moment. But when I would go back and look through the journal entries, I saw these consistent feelings. So the guilt was really just this expectation, and then what reality hit me with.
That makes so much sense. So I'm curious, because like I said, we talk about guilt, right? Like we talk about guilt on the podcast, but a lot of times we talk
Mhm.
about it in relation to being an entrepreneur and a mom at the same time, right? Like that's kind of the juxtaposition of worlds, right? That we talk about, and the guilt that lies at that intersection. But there's
Yeah.
also just this mom guilt that kind of creeps in and exists with motherhood, even entrepreneurship aside, with motherhood alone. And so I'm curious, with your clientele, are you working with mothers who are stay-at-home moms? Are you working with mothers who are working, whether it be for somebody else or for themselves? Like do you find guilt coming up more frequently, I think is what I'm trying to ask, with one particular group of mothers?
So I actually don't. Like, I work with all moms because it comes in so many different forms. As a stay-at-home mom, at first I was connecting with other stay-at-home moms, and there's this
Yeah.
guilt of, oh, I'm not bringing in an income, I'm not pulling my weight. and it kind of comes in that form. But then there are working moms who are feeling guilty because, oh, I'm not home with my kids enough. I'm not doing enough for them. Like, I'm not seeing them. Somebody else is raising them. It comes from everywhere. And I think there are so many expectations placed on moms just from everywhere that no matter what situation you're in, you may have pictured it differently. You might want to see it differently, and it's not shaping up the way you maybe had envisioned. Um, but it really seems to be hitting like almost every mom. I will say there are some moms that I've spoken to and they kind of have moved past it. And that's a wonderful thing. Like, that's kind of what I'm pushing for, is that let's all get to that point. Like,
Yes.
none of us deserve this horrible feeling when there are plenty of other like actual horrible things or like difficult things, or you know what I mean? Like,
Right? Like, let's
this
not
is
spend the
just
energy on guilt.
yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So
So
it's
do you
everywhere.
think do you think that expectations, because I'm hearing this pattern as you're speaking of this, do you think that expectations is almost the culprit when it comes to mom guilt?
That's what I'm finding when I have these conversations. Is it personal expectations? Sometimes, but when you dig a little bit deeper, it's expectations of my parents. My parents did it this way, and I expected to do it that way, but I don't want to do it that way, or they expect me to do it that way, and now I'm hearing, oh, you're not doing it the way that we did it, and that's how it should be done. Like, there is the generational expectation. There's also societal expectations, which I think, like, that's kind of harder to break through just because that is coming from everywhere. But
Yeah.
like, we have to be brave. We have to be brave about it, because these expectations, they're everywhere, but they're also not said, hey, this is my expectation of you. It's more, it comes in more like, this is how it's done, this is how we need to do it, this is what we suggest, but strongly suggest, and um it's nobody is saying this is my expectation of you, or you're not reaching my expectations. It's more, um it's subtle. It's more subtle.
Almost like how we've internalized those expectations, I feel like is yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So, okay, so can I ask you a really hard question then?
Oh, okay.
Do you still experience guilt?
I do still experience guilt.
It's
you
refreshing.
know
It's honestly, like, so refreshing and validating to hear you say that.
yeah, I absolutely do. And I think I know how to recognize it, so I know how to kind of like work through it, but like,
Mm,
it's there. For example, I am an entrepreneur, and I'm a stay-at-home mom. And so the way that I structure my days, my kids are still young. They're both toddlers, so they still get their either nap or upstairs quiet time, because I'm not ready to let my older toddler have the run of the house yet.
yes. Oh, yes.
And this is my work time. So it's really, there's a time crunch for me to get things done. And so I find myself thinking about work things while I'm with my kids.
Mhm.
Like, my mind's just wandering there, and then I feel guilty about it, because I keep saying I'm going to be present for my kids and then present for my business. Like, there's going to be this divide.
Yeah.
But it seeps in, and then I feel really guilty about it.
Yeah. It's such a great ideal, right? Like, yes, be present, be where your feet are, but I swear, like, there's something about being a mother that just like, we can't compartmentalize things anymore. Those boxes just break down and everything seeps in between the 2.
Yep.
Yeah. So when you are in that moment, what is the first step that you take?
I always need to take a breath, because if I take a breath, I can take a pause. Like, it just allows me a second to recognize what I'm feeling,
Mhm.
And then I do tell myself I can do this later. But I usually also have a notepad on me.
Yes.
Because if the idea is coming, like, it could be that like golden nugget idea, and I don't want to lose that.
Right.
So I do write that down and say, I will do this later, but it is here for me.
That's a great suggestion. Jillian, through all of this, you've gone through a lot of change over the last many years, right? Like going from being an event planner, having kids, choosing to be a stay-at-home mom, shifting into this coaching, like that's a lot of change. What does success look like to you these days?
Success to me really just feels peace. If I can feel peace in the decisions that I've made, regardless of what other people think, to me, that's successful.
Mm,
Um, and there is a process to it. It's not like immediate peace, but there's that feeling of, okay, this is going in a good direction, and I am the one in control. Like I am able to make this decision. Like if something, say something doesn't work out in the business or personally, whatever it is,
mhm,
if I'm able to say, okay, that was not meant to be right now. I'm at peace with this, I can let it go,
mhm.
or I can, shift into something that will feel more aligned with what I'm going for right now.
That's a great answer. I love asking this question because I've done dozens of interviews at this point. Nobody has ever given me the same answer. And so even though there's some similarities and some crossover, it's so interesting. So peace, what a great answer. So, okay, so you were an entrepreneur before, then you had kids, and now you are in this like new version of this entrepreneurial world. How has this changed you as a person, being a parent and an entrepreneur?
Let's see. That's such a good question, especially because I was an entrepreneur before I was a parent and now I am again. It does give me the ability to see the difference. Um Before as an event planner, everything was planned to the minute. It had to be.
Yeah.
Um Now I do find I have to be a little more flexible with my time, with my patience, like when my kids are, trying to talk to me and I'm like, let me just get my idea on paper. I don't want to forget this. Um, so I actually am a lot more flexible now.
Yeah.
Um, and I am also a little more focused now because I
Mm,
have these time constraints. If I want to remain present with my kids, I really have to be focused during that like hour and a half or so that I am getting to really devote fully to business.
yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I feel like becoming a parent kind of, it makes you almost like a superpower at time management, even though we feel like we never have it together. We get so much done. Do you find the same?
I do, and like I said, even though I was an event planner, I'm way better at time management now.
Yeah, but like you said, with that flexibility, that's so interesting. Oh, Jillian, this is so fun. What do you wish that people knew about being a parent and an entrepreneur at the same time?
I wish they knew that it was possible. I think some
Mm,
people avoid it just thinking this isn't my time for it. It is your time for it if you want it to be. It is possible, but it is hard. There will probably be some sacrifices that are necessary, and like where you sacrifice is your choice. Personally, I probably could spend more time on my business and less time with my kids. It's just a choice I'm making at this point in my life. But, kids change so quickly, they grow so quickly that your availability for your business will change quickly. Your priorities will change. So it's possible. Just be ready to be flexible and make some compromises.
oh, that's such an encouraging, it reminds me of something you said earlier of just be brave, right? Like if this is the time, this is absolutely the time. So, Jillian, I want to ask you a question about the name of this podcast. So, we called the podcast Reimagining Hustle. And the reason that I named it that is when I started my entrepreneur journey, I also was not a parent. And I totally bought into hustle culture, right? I mean, I loved it. It was the hustle, 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 go, 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 work hard, play hard, but there's never actually time to play because you're still working hard. But that almost like a badge of honor of like, oh, I only got 4 hours of sleep last night. I'm so, you know what I mean? Like I bought into it big time. And then I had my first child and my whole world stopped. I mean, everything stopped. And I knew instantly that what I was doing was not sustainable. And so I've been on this quest to reimagine hustle since then. And so I would love to know, how do you and have you reimagined hustle?
So I think reimagining hustle for me has meant hustling during specified time. Like work as hard as you can between this hour and this hour, and like when it's over, it's over. And that has encouraged me to find different time management approaches,
Mm,
to try using timers when in the past I wouldn't have used timers, to reprioritize my to-do list. I do love to-do lists. I'm just that kind of person, but I treat them differently now. I definitely like reorganize them and put order of importance, like that your kid might get up a little early today. So what are the non-negotiables? Like that's to me what reimagining hustle means, is really honing in on the most important things, and the time that I have available.
mm. What a great way to reimagine hustle. I love that idea. Um, oh, Gillian, I've already, like you have been just full of so much information. Will you give us a 30-second pep talk for other parents and entrepreneurs on this journey?
I would love to. So I would start my pep talk off like this: if not now, when? There is no better time than right now to do what you want to do, because your kids are watching you. They are absorbing like sponges, that they do. And so when they see you going for your dreams, you're teaching them it's okay to go for your dreams. So get out there and do what you love, because you'll teach your children it's okay to do what you love, and you will feel like yourself again. Don't lose yourself in parenthood. Go for your dreams, and your kids will appreciate you for it.
Mm. I need more microphones to drop because you just keep dropping them. Gillian, thank you. What a great pep talk. Okay, we need more of you. Tell us where we can get you. Where can we find you online?
Sure. So I work under my company name as Guided Parenthood. I'm on Instagram and I'm on Facebook. And you can get in touch with me on either of those. And I also have a workshop coming up. It's called Eliminating Mom Guilt. It is free, and I would love to help any and all moms who are ready to break up with mom guilt. Come, we will talk about it. We will get our three-step process, and I would love to see you there. It's next week, but it will always be available, because I truly believe that all moms deserve to eliminate mom guilt. So this will always be something that you have access to.
That's awesome. So we will make sure that we get that information out quickly so that we can have that. That's what a valuable thing. And to offer that free as well. My goodness, what a gift. What an absolute gift. We'll make sure to link everything in the show notes. Gillian, this has been absolutely inspiring for me. So thank you so much for the gift of your time, for your wisdom, for sharing. What a fun conversation to have around mom guilt. I'm glad we got to dive into that a little bit too. So thank you for the gift of your time today.
Thank you so much for having me. It was such a pleasure.
Thanks for listening to Reimagining Hustle with Roxanne Merkett. If you like the show and want more, check out reimagininghustle.com and please leave a review wherever you get your podcasts. We'll be back next week with another episode. See you soon.